I need to go to bed. It's like it is already 10 p.m. for me. So I'll start off with chapter 3, and then if there's anyone, you can drop in the chat, or if you want to talk. If you want to talk, sorry, I think I'm going to need to mute someone. Not sure who it is, but if you want to say anything, you can raise your hand, or you can drop comments in the chat. I'll be asking questions along the way as well. So when I ask questions, feel free to unmute or to. I would have said that I want to see with a show of hands everyone that read the book, but it is well. Let's just leave it there. So for chapter 3, it started off with the title is self-efficacy and uh, uh, developing confidence. The title is Habit Shift, how to develop new habits for personal development. And this is an accountability group. So we've been on this book since. So I just want us to push through and hopefully finish it before the end of the year. So it says if you believe you can achieve your goals and develop new habits, you are more likely to persist in the face of challenges. Because let's be honest, the reason why many people don't achieve their goals is not because they're just being lazy. It's because many times things come up that you were not anticipating, and somehow they manage to distract you. And the people that go on to achieve their goals are not they also have those challenges, but the difference between them and those that do not achieve the goals is that they go on in spite of the challenges. So it's not like they don't have challenges, but they're able to persist. And there's something that makes you persist. And so I think the word is resilience, because many times when you look at what you're dealing with, you're like, oh, I can't. I remember there's a lady I saw, I just unfriended the account on Facebook a few days ago. Uh, she was dealing with cancer, but she used to show up every day. She used to do lives, and she would preach the word of God and all, and she was going through all of the treatments and all. Unfortunately, she passed, but of course, all of her lives and teachings are still there for anyone that wants to be blessed to go. And I can imagine how much pain and all she was going through, but she was pushing through until the very end. I don't want to go into preaching, so let me just go quickly. So now I'm going to ask you a few questions. I would love to get your answers. If you can unmute, unmute. If you want to drop in the chat, you can drop in the chat and I'll read out. So first question I have is, what new habits did you form this year? I would like one or two people to talk. Did you form any new habits this year? And if yes, which ones did you form? Can I have feedback from the team? Hello? Did anybody form new habits this year? So if you cannot unmute to talk, please, you can type in the chat. Thank you. So I'm going to read out. Chidima says, I started listening actively. Chinaza says, daily yoga and meditation. Beautiful. But you know that you just assumed that I was asking you for positive habits. You just assumed so, right? That was the reason why I just said new habits. Because there are some habits that if we take some time to look in and introspect, there may be some habits we picked up this year that are not helping us and not propelling us towards our goals. But then the next question was, which ones propelled you towards your goals, the goals that you set? Okay, Modupe says daily planning. That's beautiful. So which which of the habits you formed this year propelled you towards your goals for the year, that made you listening actively? Chidima, if you can tell us, how exactly did that help you towards achieving your goals for this year? When you started listening actively, did it help, or was it just a good to have? Chinaza, daily yoga and meditation, did it help you achieve your goals, or was it a good to have, or was it a need to have? Modupe, daily
Uh,
planning.
Um, for me, was a need to have actually because I get distracted easily,
Okay.
especially when I'm having a conversation. So I had to like actively still start learning how to still my mind when I'm having a conversation so that I can pick up, a lot of cues, cues that may not necessarily be what the person is saying, hear what the person is not saying, and
So you're able to look at yourself.
resist
Yeah.
the urge to respond immediately, you know.
So rather than to respond intelligently rather than just responding on the fly.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
that's good. Okay, Modupe says daily planning helped me stay focused to achieve some of the things I was able to achieve this year. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Chinaza, if you want to drop, please go ahead. You can either drop in the chat or speak up. So I have another question for you. Which habits did you pick this year that set you back? That you think hindered you from achieving all of your goals? Well, they could be new habits, or they could be habits that you carried over from before, and despite all your best efforts, you realize that you still haven't shaken them off. Which habits do you think you haven't quite gotten over or you picked newly? Okay, so for Chidinma, you said it's procrastination. So is it a new habit, or is it an existing one that just refused to break?
no, it's not new. It's not
Okay,
new.
so
It's
you recognize it
just
as you
yes,
recognize
it's
it as
just
something that you need to work on. Go on.
yeah,
Please go.
it's a habit that grew from, from having to be sure everything is perfectly aligned before I get to do something. And then
Okay, thank
it,
you.
it has,
Modifa says, okay,
it
are
has
you
now
still speaking?
spiraled.
Go on.
Yeah,
Please go on.
sorry. It has now
Please go.
spiraled to something that, something I now identify as analysis paralysis.
Mm,
Because
mm,
I'm thinking if this doesn't happen, that will happen. I end up not making a decision.
okay. Modupe says that for her, it was being too humble and not standing firm with boundaries. Modupe, do you want to give us a bit more context, or can I continue? Chinaza, do you have anything you want to say? I'm going to assume your answer is that I can proceed. So the next question I have is, what would you do differently? What are you going to do about these habits that are still setting you back? Because I'm a Christian, so I'm going to go the Christian way. It says, let us set aside every weight, and let that every weight that more or less draws up us back, and let us look to Jesus, who is the author and finisher of our faith. We understand that there are some things they weigh us down. We are leaking energy because we are not addressing. And for example, procrastination, it just feels like, oh, I'll get to it later. I'll get to it later. But time is the only thing you really like have. Your life is measured in with time. So for every 5 seconds, for example, that you waste not doing what you should do, you are actually deviating from your course, because again, from Bible says that there is a time for everything. So if you miss your timing, even if you still go ahead and do the task, you missed the time you should have done it. Again, from the Bible, it says that Jesus was talking and said, oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you did not know the time of your visitation. So timing is, I think it's even maybe more important than the fact that you did it. You can do it, but you can be doing it at the wrong time. So procrastination they say is a thief of time. But much more than a thief of time, is a thief of your life, because time is your life. Then you look around and you see that you are 40 or you are 54 and you haven't done much. And you know, when you now say, you now begin to console yourself by saying, oh, it's not how far, but how well. But you know you could have done better if you had addressed the issue of procrastination. Of course, there are some times when the delays, there's nothing you could have done about the delays. But uh, then, so I'm going on to the being humble. So it's held you back. It's been a struggle and it's costing more. So being humble is good, but there's a line that needs to be addressed. Don't be humble when you have not been called to be humble. Of course, we will always be humble, but the expression of the humility, and I like the second part, which is not standing firm with boundaries. You know that you know what you should do, but because of this, I don't want to call them character flaws. So you're working to be more intentional, and you're going to need to, because you have now recognized this as a limitation, and you know that you cannot solve the problem and on the same realm as where the problem was created. Of course, you need to dig deeper and ask yourself, why am I this humble in quotes? What mindset is making me respond this way? Then am I doing it so well? It takes me, the next question I had was, do you think that your goals were realistic? So that's the second part of it. Yes, maybe you didn't go towards the, but were the goals realistic to start with? Just to be fair to yourself, you need to step back and look and see that, oh, maybe if you had said, I want to build a house this year, maybe you want to step back and say, okay, I want to get my land in the coming year. And then maybe you say, okay, afterwards, I want to get mortgage facilities, and you make the goals more realistic. But of course, as people of faith, realism has to be what God calls realistic, because sometimes what He's asking us to do doesn't make any human sense. So we need to balance that and make sure that as we are being realistic, we are not planning God out of our lives. So we need to be mindful of that as well. So I'm going to move on to the next thing, which is causes of lack of confidence. So you tell me which one resonates with you. I'm going to list them. If you want to know the full details, please go and buy the book and read. You have the link. So if it's something that interests you that you want to dig deeper into, you should get the book. So the author talks about past failures, negative self-talk, comparing yourself to others, lack of experience, and trauma. So I'd like to ask you, which one do you think is um is more or less working against you? Because like I said, you could recognize all the way that you are, what they call, my daughter used the word today and I was like, where did you learn it? She said she can be conflict avoidant. I was like, hey, where did you learn big grammar? Conflict avoidance, but sometimes that's what is being expressed as being too humble and all of that. It could be because you are conflict avoidant. So if you just say, oh, I'm too humble, but you don't dig to the point of that, oh, the reason why I'm so humble is because I don't want conflict. You just be saying, oh, I want to be more intentional. I want to be so, but you're not getting to the root of the matter. The root of the matter, and for some people, it may be because of past trauma. There were times when you tried to stand your ground and it did not work out well for you. And so your brain has learned that, oh, just avoid drama. Just whatever your boss says, just do it, which is not the best approach all the same. You still need to deal with whatever until you, but it's just like if you are just feeling a headache and you're feeling body pains, how do you know what you're dealing with? Because there are so many diseases that express themselves in the form of headaches and body pain. So you still have to take some time to narrow down and know what exactly you're dealing with so that you can then administer the proper medication. So if you want to dig deeper and all, please go and buy the link is on the group. And And when I post the video here, it will also be, I'll put it in the description as well. Okay, so the steps that we can that are recommended in the book to overcome the causes of lack of confidence. Number one, recognize and challenge negative self-talk. Because for some of us, the conversations happening in our heads are not healthy. And most of the time, it's because we have, would I say, assimilated all the negative self-talk that people around us have spoken to us. So we have owned it. We have told ourselves that, oh, you know what, you're not really that smart. You really cannot get things done on time. Or you have to analyze everything so you don't make mistakes and all of that. So it's the conversation is happening at the back of your head. So you're definitely going to, of course, because I'm a believer, the one thing I would say is that one of the ways to overcome negative self-talk is to spend time to tell yourself what God says about you, and find those scriptures, post them everywhere. Whenever you catch yourself saying things that you should not say, you reverse them and you tell yourself, I'm able to possess the land. I'm able to go. I'm going out today. I'm meeting people that will favor me. And you you chart the course of your life with your words. Again, I'm going to go scriptural. The thing that saved Rahab the harlot was that she opened her mouth and she spoke after she saved the spies. She didn't just save them and send them away. She told them that, see, let's have a deal. I've helped you. How are you going to help me? And she negotiated her way out of harlotry, out of Jericho with her words. She spoke up when it mattered. So you will speak to yourself. You will wake up in the middle of the night and tell yourself, I have the mind of Christ. I am able to possess the land. God has given me victory. Find all those scriptures. Keep telling yourself every time. The Bible says when the enemy comes, like a flood, the Spirit of God will raise the standard against him. That's because you have filled your heart with God's word. You are meditating on it. You are saying it. You are repeating it, irrespective of what you're seeing. Remember what I said in the beginning, that people are dealing with the same adversity you're dealing with, but they are having different results than you. Why? They don't see the adversity, they see the opportunity. And it just reminds me of when I was in 2020, I think during the lockdown, the COVID lockdown. There was a lot going on with my mental health and all. And everything was dark, gloomy, sad news, etc. But somehow God helped me to look at the news, Nigerian news. Of course, when you look at the first 4 pages or so of the newspaper, it's all doom and gloom. But he may help me look beyond the 4 pages, and I was seeing people that were uh, building unicorns and selling for billions of dollars in the same economy where everyone was thinking COVID, people are dying. Some people were taking the risk, they were doing Zoom calls and making giant strides. So I had to, it helped to revolutionize my mindset. I was like, see, for as long as I've not yet died, it would be terrible for me not to die and for me to still be looking terrible. At least let it be that if I'm going to die, at least let me die trying. Let it not be that I'm just there waiting passively for death to come and get me. And so I began. And thankfully, at that time, the president banned Twitter. So the time I would normally spend on Twitter, I began to spend it on LinkedIn. I began to spend like an hour every day on LinkedIn. I revamped my LinkedIn profile. I started engaging on LinkedIn. It didn't seem to be working, but I was like, let me just do it. My sister encouraged me, and with her, she did a bit of work on my CV. I also have a friend that she was my ex-colleague that is in HR. Between two of them, they helped me revamp, and I began to engage. And I was looking at myself 3 years or 4 years from where I was in COVID. It has been a serious difference. There has been a huge change. So you need to work on the negative self-talk that is happening in your head. It's all in your head. One of the things God told me is that uh, post COVID, I didn't want to leave the house. I was like, oh, everywhere. there's sickness outside. So the first day I went out, I was so careful, not touching anything. Then I realized that most of the fear was in my head. Everyone else was moving along and getting ahead. And I was there just sitting and thinking that there's a lion in the streets. I've been on the streets for like 4 years. I've still not met the lion that I was so afraid of. Then, okay, number two, reframe past failures. More or less, but that's for people that the reason why you're lacking in confidence is because uh, you have been burnt in the past. So maybe you've spoken up in the past and it was you went to. I was watching a video just before this session, and the lady was saying that you need to be mindful that HR is not your friend. That if you're going to, that just know that if you have an issue with your boss, if you go and report, HR is going to take your boss's side and just deal with it. I feel like it's an overgeneralization, but we know that on the average, HR is working for the organization, they are not working for you. And so if you're able to reframe that and deal with it in your mind and know that okay, I'm not okay with what my boss did. Let's say your boss was screaming at you or something, and you don't consider it to be good behavior. If you refrain from your past experience, you can look through your past experience, learn what you could have done better, and then implement now. So you could say that, okay, I could have maybe written an email, copied my boss, for example, rather than yelling back or storming to HR to go and talk. There will most likely be lessons on how to address the same issue, and you reframe it. And if you could also talk yourself or get yourself to the point where you tell yourself that I'm not going to allow this uh, work on my self-worth anymore or impact my self-worth. I'm going to document what's happened. I'm going to inform HR. I know that I can manage my expectations better now because now you are not seeing HR with petal eyes, rose-colored eyes, and how they say it. You've been burnt before, so you have experience. So you shouldn't be as devastated as you were before when you found out that HR, the HR means human resources, the hero tinted lenses. Thank you. So you know that now is dog eat dog. The world is cold. So you frame your conversation so that you are able to document and let them know that you don't consider this to be acceptable behavior. At this point, you know that, okay, you can get some part of the employee handbook or maybe some part of the uh, constitution of the land to strengthen your case. And then so by the time they are reading from you now, they will know that they are no longer reading from the fresh out of college person, but they are reading from someone that has experience. And again, I'm always telling stories. I remember one of my ex-colleagues, I think she had traveled to give birth to her daughter, and for some reason, HR said she did not inform them, but she informed our manager. And so we had the same manager. She informed our manager was aware, and by the time she came back, HR, I mean, like this someone that was just coming back from giving birth. So she was just fresh out of the delivery room. And that was when I knew that I had a lot of respect from her. Well, her HR came for her. They were like, she did not notify them. She didn't give them uh, prior notice, blah, blah, blah. They came guns blazing, and she didn't move, she didn't shake, but I could tell from experience that she wasn't as strong as she thought she looked like she was. So I decided I was going to support her through the process. And so when she was talking to me, she was getting a bit emotional. So I told her that we are not going to deal with this thing emotionally. We are going to give them aura for aura. We are going to go through their handbook and we are going to prove to them that they are out of line. And so we went through the handbook. We realized that they had loopholes in the handbook that they did not close. So she was in the right because she informed the manager. And so they were coming from a handbook that they had updated, but they did not circulate to the staff. So they were trying to try her with a handbook that was not approved. So by the time we came out with the case, and Fortunately for us, our manager sided us. And he also said he was not aware of that handbook that they were talking about, that they had not circulated it. That so he was going to stand by the old one, and that's how she got off. But the message I'm going is that I'm sure she must have had some past experiences, and so she was not going in like an amateur. She went in like a pro. I'm glad that we have a lawyer on the call. And people used to tell me that they are not sure if I'm an engineer or a lawyer, because you cannot be sentimental. Please, I'll need you to back me up, my barrister. You cannot be sentimental when you are dealing with business transactions. You have to go in. Uh, don't be too, or don't be ruthless like most lawyers that we know, but make sure that you're standing on business. You cannot be adding emotions to business. You call them out, give them all the sections, subsections, make sure that your documentation is tight. So next thing, number 3, says focus on personal growth instead of comparing yourself with others. That's for people with whom the issue, because of lack of confidence, is that you're comparing yourself with others. You are competing only with yourself. You are not competing with other people. You are competing with your best self. You are aiming to be that best. So it's good to see what others are doing. It's good to celebrate others. It's good to see what they're doing and say, oh yeah, congratulations. But don't feel like you're failing because you're not doing what others are doing. You're only failing when you're not doing what you should be doing at that time. So you could see people that maybe you went to school with, you got the same grades, you started work the same time, other than the person is maybe a manager in a Fortune 500 company doing great things, public speaker, blah 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 blah, and you are just there. You're just pushing paper where you are. You're signing documents. You're in the lab, and it seems like you're in the back end and no one seems to know you. I know there's just this tendency for you to look at yourself and compare yourself with the other person and say, oh, I'm not doing well. But you should be comparing yourself with who you should be at this time, not who the other person is. Because I'm sure in every language, this adage is so that you should not look at other people's clock to run your race. I can almost bet that if I ask everyone on this call, there will be something in your culture that says the same thing about running your own race. We have custom made races, every one of us. Our races are custom made. We are not running the races of other people. I can I can tell you. I'm sure if I ask you, you will tell me in your different languages what that proverb is. Then the one I love, I think I like number 4, says seek out new experiences. So, for some of us, part of the reason why we are lacking in confidence and all is that we don't always play to our strengths, because sometimes maybe the job you're doing does not give you the opportunity to play to your strength. So let's say you are a business analyst, you're stuck at your desk almost like every day. And that's more or less. I remember I was talking with someone on the 20th, so today is 22nd, 2 days ago, and I was telling her that before now I was more or less stuck in a triangle: work, church, home, work, church, home. And I felt like I was in a rut. I felt stunted. But when I began to branch out and get new interests, I began to get involved in online communities. I began to do other things. I was able to use some of my skills that my job did not require. And in doing all of those things, it spurred me, it began to work on my confidence. I realized that, oh, you're not such an olodo after all. You're not such a you're not such a sorry case. It's just that, okay, you're not able to fully express in this job that you're in. And I felt like I was holding myself back because and part of my own challenges was that I'm an engineer, but I have a creative side, and I had no outlet for my creative side in my day job. So that side was crying out for expression. And so I was taking it out on other people because I wasn't able to. But when so one of the things I did was that I began to write. I have a published book now because I started to just pour out. I have built communities. This accountability group is one of the communities. It's one of the ways I can express. So this is not me doing engineering. This is me doing what I'm passionate about, supporting people to do what they should be doing for a time. So in doing this, in having these Zoom calls, in having these conversations, they energize me. So I'm able to go back to work and do the work because I'm seeking out new experiences on the job, new experiences outside of the job, and they they feed a part of my soul. So I'm able to give more because my soul is getting fed. Of course, my spirit is getting fed too. Then, so for people that are dealing with trauma, you need to seek professional help. One interesting thing I've seen with people that deal, some people, is that they are not even willing to admit that they are dealing with trauma. They just are like, just normal. It's the normal thing, normal level. And I remember watching a video. I think it was DDK that was interviewing Queen Omomi, Akini Festimi or something. And Queen Omomi was saying that, see, for as long as you are born in Nigeria, you have trauma. You are dealing with trauma by default because from traffic jam to somebody, your mechanic was lying to you. You called the generator man, say I'm coming. 40 hours later, he's still not there. And it just reminds me of a time that one generator guy was trying to show himself. He went with that generator. He did not come back. We were calling him. He was now no longer responding again. He said he will come. So I told the people in my house that don't worry, this guy, he has met his match in me. So I used the number he didn't know. I now used it to call him. I now told him that I got his number from somebody. I tried to disguise my voice so that I will not know it's me. That I got his number from someone that I need him to come and help me repair my gen. And I said somewhere close to where my house was. So the same person, I think when we called him, he said he had gone out. He went to took his son somewhere, and I knew he was lying. So I called him with another number. So because he thought he was a new customer, he started coming immediately, and he came to our area. And as he was passing by, and now I made sure I was standing outside, and I told him that it's me that called you. Yeah, come and do your work and all of that. But if it's not trauma, why are you doing all this nonsense drama? Because you need somebody to come and do his work. So all of us, by default, I believe that we need national therapy. Let's even start from there. Then, of course, there are some people that they've actually gone through some really, really traumatic experiences, and sometimes you go like, "Oh, why am I procrastinating?" You just think that it's just procrastination, but when you dig deeper, there may be trauma be underneath it. It may be the cause. So when you identify those things, don't just sweep them under the carpet. You're not going to have malaria and hope that malaria will go when you just say it is well, or that just tell your mind that it's okay. You treat it. So when you identify trauma, please treat it. Otherwise, it will be showing up in places that you didn't expect. So I would encourage you. Then I think I wrote something about the growth mindset. I actually took a course last year on the growth mindset, and I realized how my mindset needed a lot of shifts. If it's something you think you need, I'll be happy to recommend the course to you. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about that because I want to go quickly to chapter 4. So for chapter 4 was obstacles and setbacks to developing new mindset. I want to quickly rush through them so that I can give everyone or anyone that wants to speak the chance to speak. So obstacles and setbacks to developing new habits. So I think so tell me again which one is yours. So the obstacles and setbacks that were listed were lack of motivation, boredom, difficulty in maintaining consistency. I think a lot of similarities between chapter 3 and 4. Anyway, lack of time. This negative self-talk is coming up again, and lack of support. So if you can just drop in the in the chat which one is your own, please. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear you. Okay. So while I wait for you, let's talk about the strategies.
Okay.
So
Okay,
okay,
wait, wait, wait.
please go ahead.
My own is plenty. Oh.
Don't worry, we are here for you. Talk it. We are here.
Okay. I think mine, the first one is lack of motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it comes majorly from the fact that, I keep trying stuff. It's not working. No matter what I try, everything just seems to keep falling through. So I just got to a point where
Yeah, like what
I
will be
just
will be.
I'm like, what's the kidney big deal?
What
What's the
I think
what's the
quick, quick,
what do
Sarah,
you understand?
Sarah.
What's the whole point? What's
Mhm.
the whole point? Yeah, so I'm kind of just cruising. I mean, the latest one came in August. I when I pick something to do, I go at it with every zeal. I go like, okay, this, and then all these roadblocks and delays and doors getting shut in my face just start again, and I go like, what's the whole point? I mean,
Mm.
am I trying to stray from where I'm supposed to be? But then where I am, I'm not finding full expression. I'm not happy. I'm not, nothing is right. So it seems as if trying to make a change, trying to, you get ahead, is that thing I shouldn't be doing. That's what it seems like now, hence the lack of motivation. And then another thing is lack of time, to even, I was on the phone with someone earlier today, and the person was like, oh, when will you have time so we can hang out?
I always find that question interesting.
Yeah. And I told the person, see, if I have time now, first thing I will do is to sleep, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, the first thing I will do if I have time is sleep without interruption. And then when I'm done sleeping, I can now ask myself, what next? But for now, I need to shut down my brain for a while
Mm.
and just sleep. The negative self-talk was something I started working on last year too. And we're getting there. Uh, And we're getting
Mm.
things. I'm learning not to take losses, and when things fail, I'm learning not to take them, you know, too personal or
So,
something. Yeah, but we are getting there. Difficulty maintaining consistency also ties in with the same reason I get bored easily too.
okay.
So that's it for me at my end.
All right. Thank you for sharing. Is there anyone else that wish to share? That wishes to share? Otherwise, I'll just go in. I'll talk about the strategies. Then, as we're talking through the strategies, I'll respond to what you said, sis. So the first strategy, according to the author, is to build accountability. Thankfully, you have an accountability group. So it's supposed to accountability is supposed to help you in terms of motivation, but accountability is not the catch-all. You're going to have to participate for accountability to work for you. It's not something that you just be passive about and it will work for you. So if you remember, we started out with asking you every week, what are your goals, etc. What are your blah 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 blah. But if you are if there are underlying issues, and let me just take a step back and say there was a time I was running a challenge for startup business owners, and we're supposed to. We're actually on another one for WhatsApp. Modifa is crying. Yeah, because she's one of the people that were on that challenge and still on the new one too. And the thing is, if um if 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 you're not committed to it, accountability will not work for you. The person will just keep asking you how far, and you just say it's in progress. Actually, I did that. It's in progress to someone on Thursday, but that was because that one was getting on my nerves, honestly, because the person was getting on my nerves. But there's a way you can just tell the person that is checking up on you and make the person self tired of checking up on you because it just feels like they are stressing you. So in that case, accountability is not working for you because it's not still accounting. The accountability is not accounting. But what one thing I've seen is that if you tie those goals to something that means something to you. So for example, if there's a story that comes to mind. There's a lady um, I know her from church back then. And when I first met her, her husband was more or less the one that was responsible for the family. And when I met her, she said, oh, she had a furniture company. She had a furniture company, but it was obvious that she wasn't taking the furniture company serious because she didn't have any financial needs. Her husband was taking care of all of the financial needs and of the family and of other people's families. But in a tragic event, the man passed away. It was really, really sad. And then we found out that he didn't even have any investments or anything of the sort that they could live on. And so they had 4 kids. They have 4 kids, and then she became the sole breadwinner and she had to take care of 4 kids. And the woman that was not able to make a furniture company thrive, she started selling bread. She would take bread in her car, and she was diligent. She was able to start to use the bread business to begin to take care of her family. So it was obvious that it's not because she did not have the capacity. It was just because at the time she did not consider it to be her top priority. So sometimes the lack of motivation is coming because this is not your this is this your life is not working. Long and short, sometimes that's why there's a lack of motivation and accountability will not work. But I also understand that sometimes you want to do, just like when Paul was saying that which I want to do, I find that I do not do. That I do not want to do, that's what I do. Then I do, up and down, do. Who will save me from this body of flesh? So sometimes you are at that point where you have done all you know to do and it's not doing. So you're like, you know what will be will be. So accountability ourselves when we are tired, we give you and all of that. So sometimes that's plain, but sometimes accountability can help you. So at least try it first. If it works for you, that's good. Then you also want to create a supportive environment because I'm going to speak again to Chidema that spoke. So these your goals and all that you're working on. Are you working on them in isolation, or do you have people that you are standing with that are helping you? So what they will tell you is that you should get a mentor and a sponsor. And so do you have people that can, so for me, for example, my first workplace supervisor, she's a lady. Uh, when I was trying to get my master's degree and all of that, I informed her. So anytime she sees any scholarship, any opportunity, anything, she's sending it my way. And she's checking on me and asking me how far. And I did that for like my three of my bosses. So anytime, in fact, four, and anytime they see anything, they are. In fact, one of them still sent me a message like 2 days ago. It was like Nikki, what does he call me? He used to call me Nikki Africana before. Now he calls me Nikki Arabian or something like that. And I call him. So it's more or less like an informal mentorship. But when they see things, they are like, oh, okay, this is what Adenike has said she wants to do. Because sometimes there are some doors. that you cannot go by yourself. Someone has to open the door from inside. Someone from the inside has to open the door for you. And then it will not be like all these things that you have been trying, you have been pushing. When I moved to my next job, it was one of my university mates that opened the door for me from the inside. So sometimes you will need to have that. So you are going, because sometimes what we do is that we are like, oh, it's me and God. But sometimes God will highlight people to you that you need to move closer to, and they will be the people through whom you will get the next job or the next opportunity or the next something. And I think I shared this story when I had this a session. I'm actually going to share the link to that session that I had on Wednesday with one of my friends per se, but we're talking about her career. And now I can't remember what I was going to say, but I'm sure I will still remember it. So when I remember it, I will come again. But it's about opening, getting access. Yeah, I was talking about my job. I think that's what I was talking about. And the person that opened the door for me then was my classmate. Okay, no, I remember what I was going to say. There was someone that we interviewed him in my place of employment. He was not qualified for the role he applied for. He had padded his CV. He was not qualified. But when we were supposed to just throw him out and just end the conversation, but I told them that how about we bring him in and we offer him a junior role, because it's not like he doesn't have experience. It's just that he lied about having more experience than he truly has. But how about we make him an intermediate instead of making him maybe a principal or something? So HR agreed, and we brought him in, and we did all we could to help his career. So during the lockdown, he just reached out to me because we had to let him go by the time we had to go into the lockdown. And at some point, he reached out to me and he told me that, oh, that there's an organization that wants someone to run some workshops for them and all of that. And I asked him that, why did you not do it? And he told me that, oh, that the organization said they don't want him, that he should bring them someone. And that's why how he got me in. And that's how I got into the organization. And then I realized that one of the people there was a family friend. And throughout COVID and all of that, I worked for them. In fact, I just finished doing some work for them this year, and that door opened. So, but there was no, I would not have known. I would not have known. And if I had not built a good relationship with this guy, he may not have recommended me as when he had the opportunity to recommend. So in building the supportive environment, yes, build people that support you, but as much as possible, also try to support others, because sometimes, I like to say concerning Joseph, it was when he was in the interpreting of other people's dreams that Joseph's dream was actualized. So sometimes you need to invest in other people, and you'll be amazed how it comes back to you. Then the other thing is I think there was something about focusing on the benefits. You need to read the book for that. Then it says stay flexible and adaptable. That's to address the issue of lack of time. We need to find time. So for me, what I do is that I try to wake up earlier. I try to sleep earlier. I sleep early so that I can wake up early. So when I wake up, I have like an hour or so. And then first of all, I'm in a place where I'm 2 hours ahead of everyone in Nigeria. So that's an advantage. I also try to wake up so that I can have like an hour before I start getting ready for work to do the things I consider to be important. So I'm deliberate. The I will deliberately not go for that Owambe. I would deliberate. And I know I'm saying this carefully because I know that with your job, it may not give you that level of flexibility. But you need to pray about it, do whatever you need to do, and maybe you need another job, ask God for another job so that you can make time for the things that are important. Because it's this is the time we have, this age is the time we really have to invest for the future. So we cannot afford to not have time. That's one. We need to deal with it and deal decisively with it. And another strategy here is to avoid burnout. So you have to take rest days. God is all knowing and is wise. When He says that we should have at least 1 day of rest in a week, it means it. Sometimes it's when you are resting that the solution will come. And I do have a story. I always have stories. I have a story like that. I was working when I was working for my postgraduate diploma. I was working on a question, and I sat there, tried to solve it. When I got tired, I was like, you know what? Let me just go down the road and grab something to eat, and I'll come back and I'll keep looking at it. And as I was walking down the road to where I was going to eat, it was like the answer fell from heaven and hit me. It just came by inspiration. So I quickly rushed to where I went to eat. I rushed quickly, ate quickly, rushed back so that it will not evaporate the way it came. Quickly solved it, and I got the answer I needed to get. So I knew that this one is this Rema. So it came. It did not come by me sitting for too long. It came by me taking a break. So sometimes the solution that you're looking for is to take a break. It may be what you need to get to where you're going. And sometimes some people have said that in the period when they said, let me just take a break and just go see a movie, for example, I don't want to call it time and chance, but sometimes it sounds like time and chance. It just happens that the person sitting by you in the cinemas is the person you need for the next step. Sometimes you just take that walk and you say, you know what, let me just take a walk down the street. And you will meet your friend that you haven't seen in 4 years, and he or she may have the answer to the issue that you're trying to resolve. You will be amazed. So sometimes you need to get out of your desk and go meet people, have conversations, and you'll be amazed by how things are resolved. So I'm going to end now. I've talked a lot. I'm going to end. It says developing new habits is a process that requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to adapt. And I'm going to open up for conversations now. Do we have anyone that would like to say something? Okay, I can see that. Okay, it's people crying and all that there. So I'll just go around the room. Is there anyone that wants to say anything? Modupe, Chidima, Chinaza, do you have anything to say? Anything? If the
No.
answer is okay, if the answer is no, then I'm checking. It's time for checking in. I think I'll stop recording now, and we can just have